accused of claiming millions for services it didn't deliver. Why health providers are under fire.
Hamilton revs up for the biggest show in town. What the locals really think of V8s racing through their streets.
It's a blooming marvel, the Kiwi creation set to make millions.
And a tennis queen upstages the supermodels. How Maria Sharapova stole the swimsuit show.
Also, why cancer patients are facing a longer wait for chemotherapy.
And the huge price paid for our first penny stamp.
But first, the opposition's demanding an inquiry into sloppy financial management by some of our major health providers. An agency that cares for disabled people was paid more than $2 million taxpayers' dollars for services it didn't provide. The organisation blames its computers and says it gave the money back.
Focus 2000 is one of the largest providers of care for physically disabled people in Auckland, but it's now under fire for claiming millions of dollars for services it didn't provide.
This is yet another example of sloppy accounting and poor financial management from the Ministry of Health. They've got a budget of billions of dollars. It's not getting to operations, it seems to be getting to a whole lot of mismanaged areas.
An audit shows in 3 years, the agency owned by the Cerebral Palsy Society was paid $38 million. It now turns out at least $2 million of that was falsely claimed.
That's why we did the full audit of them, and when we had the discussion with Focus 2000, they discussed how the differences between the way they were doing it and what we expected, and in the end they agreed and they repaid the money, and they're now operating to the way we expect them to invoice us.
Focus 2000 wouldn't appear on camera, but said in a radio interview the mistakes were because of software changes and the money's been repaid.
Either you had a pretty slack system or this was a deliberate attempt to line your own pocket.
This was, come on. This was not a deliberate attempt. I mean, that's a shocking statement.
But that hasn't satisfied some.
We're calling for the Audit Office to launch an urgent investigation into the way that the Ministry of Health monitors its contracts.
The Health Minister says he hasn't been briefed about the concerns and can't comment until he has. Francesca Mole, One News.
Hospital payroll systems are also under fire after an audit found more than $700,000 had been mistakenly overpaid to health workers. One honest Auckland employee returned an unexpected $50,000 bonus following a payroll blunder.
An anaesthetic technician working here at Auckland's Waitemata Health must have thought they'd hit the jackpot, suddenly discovering an extra $53,000 in their bank account thanks to a mistake by their employer.
Well, this is bureaucracy gone mad. The fact that someone can be overpaid $53,000, that managers don't even notice that this person's being overpaid and they approve it, is just appalling.
The accidental payment last March was picked up, but staff at Health Alliance, the agency that handles payroll at Waitemata and County's Manukau Health, still signed it off. The mistake was later discovered, the money returned, and the staff at fault disciplined.
We have had some issues with our payroll. I mean, typically in any payroll system, sometimes you have errors because a lot of the processing that we do currently is done manually by payroll staff. The other issue we have in healthcare is that the collective agreements are incredibly complicated, and trying to interpret them sometimes, raises a whole lot of issues.
But the overpayment may be just the tip of the iceberg. An audit report shows more than $700,000 has been mistakenly paid out to health workers. It also says there are significant issues with payroll at counties Manukau and Waitemata because of inexperienced staff. Financial control systems were downgraded from a good rating 2 years ago to just adequate, although the Health Board says other auditors rate it as satisfactory. The DHB says it's also changing from a paper-based system to an electronic one, which should improve its accuracy.
We think we've got a process to resolve it, and confident we'll do that.
Chris Farfoy, One News.
Hamilton is bracing for some high-octane excitement. The city's revving up to host a V8 supercar race through the streets of suburban Frankton. And so far, locals are right behind their council's bid for the biggest sports event in town.
Absolutely awesome. Big thing for Hamilton.
We're really stoked. We think it's great.
It's probably one of the few times you can get Ford and Holden fans to agree. They're rearing to have the Australian V8 supercar race right in their own backyard.
I didn't even know that we were trying to get it, and woke up this morning and heard it on the news and thought, it's not the 1st of April, it can't be a joke.
If this doesn't put Hamilton on the map, then I can't think of what will.
After missing out on Auckland and Wellington, the company behind the race is relieved to finally be given the nod.
Oh, I think Hamilton's a great location. It's a very beautiful location. It'll look fantastic on our worldwide TV pictures. It's very centrally located in the North Island.
Proposed route follows a series of streets in Frankton just west of Hamilton's CBD, an area full of small factories and appropriately car yards. Track engineers today checking out the venue say it could be one of the best tracks on the V8 Supercar calendar.
This is probably in the long term going to be better than the Gold Coast, and I think this will be superior to the Adelaide circuit.
Ooh, very nice, Kiwis are like that.
So excited, I turned around and texted my husband, go there, coming to Hamilton, straight past where we're working.
We're going to build our own grandstand, if we're allowed.
It's estimated 200,000 spectators would attend the three-day event, with a financial benefit for the city of $175 million over the 7-year contract. But there's still one speed bump. The racers have yet to get resource consent. But the Mayor says if Hamilton can't get it, then nowhere can. But it's already a done deal for the fans.
Nah, mate, I want everything. I will see.
Erica Wood, One News.
Auckland cancer patients are going to be waiting much longer for chemotherapy treatment. Others may also face delays, blamed on a huge increase in demand and not enough specialist doctors.
It's a letter no cancer specialist wants to write. It's being sent to Auckland chemotherapy patients next week, telling them they'll face a delay to start treatment due to an oncologist shortage.
But unfortunately for the majority of people, that's around about 4 to 6 weeks before they would actually be seen by the specialist, and then another few weeks before they'll actually receive their treatment.
Raylene Hewitt knows how that feels. She waited 11 weeks to start chemo in Auckland last year.
It is absolutely devastating to think that you don't know from day to day what is going to happen to you.
Doctors agree it's unacceptable.
I look at it and think, well, if I was sitting at home and had been diagnosed with cancer, what would I want? I'd want to see an oncologist, or if I couldn't see them, I'd want to know that at least I was going to see them and when it was.
And it's a problem compounded by a big rise in the amount of chemotherapy being dispensed. Canterbury's volume rise has been the highest at 44%, Otago's has risen 30%, Auckland's 15 to 20, Mid-Central's 17%. Wellington and Waikato's are lowest, but still up 5 to 10%.
We were not predicting that degree of increase, but we have still got new treatments coming on stream, and they will be knocking at the door, and patients' expectations will be that they can access some of these new treatments coming on stream.
But Health Ministry experts say the chemo rise is not entirely unexpected and is due to more patients, more complex treatments and better availability of newer drugs. But they acknowledge there are problems, which they say working parties are trying hard to resolve. Raylene Hewitt's awaiting test results to see if her cancer has returned. If it has, she too may now have to rejoin Auckland's growing chemotherapy queue. Laurelie Mason, One News.
Meanwhile, a decision on funding the breast cancer drug Herceptin for early-stage treatment has been put off until it's registered for such use. Herceptin's currently funded for late-stage breast cancer, but overseas trials show that if used earlier, it can halve the risk of recurrence. A Pharmac committee says not enough is yet known about the drug's safety.
The United States has condemned the release of horrific new pictures of its troops abusing Iraqi prisoners in Baghdad's notorious Abu Ghraib jail. The images, which may disturb some viewers, have set off a new round of Arab protests against America's presence in Iraq.
The images till now kept from public view. New grim testimony of what went on in Abu Ghraib jail. Shown on Australian TV today, naked Iraqi prisoners positioned for the camera. Close-ups of injuries, gunshot wounds from non-lethal rounds, telltale pools of blood on the prison floor, graphic, brutal scenes, which tonight the US State Department called disgusting, but regretted the pictures being shown.
This was a extremely unfortunate event, but we have held people accountable fully.
It's all part of the same abuse at Abu Ghraib in the early days of the US-led occupation that first emerged in 2004. Images of Iraqis paraded on a leash and menaced by dogs caused uproar worldwide. At the time, the US Defense Secretary, Donald Rumsfeld, admitted to a shocked US Senate that there was worse to come.
There are many more photographs and indeed some videos.
But now those extra pictures have been made public. Mr. Rumsfeld is making no comment. Today he cancelled a press appearance. Several low-ranking US soldiers have been sent to prison, but only one senior officer has been reprimanded. And in the US, civil liberties groups want the case reopened. Tonight on the Arab TV channel Al Jazeera, the new photos were a top headline. Some Muslims have already been incensed by the Danish cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad. And in southern Iraq today, a protest against this week's pictures of British troops apparently beating Iraqis. The Abu Ghraib abuse scandal isn't new, but these latest images could still fan the flames.
US Vice President Dick Cheney has broken his silence over accidentally shooting and seriously wounding a fellow bird hunter. Cheney's accepted full responsibility and defended his decision not to publicly disclose the incident until the next day.
I fired and there's Harry falling, and it was, I'd have to say, one of the worst days of my life.
The wounded hunter is still in hospital with a bird-shot pellet lodged in his heart.
Well, it's normally a cool blue, but now it also comes in a romantic red. New Zealand scientists have created a beautiful flower that's set to be a blooming success for our floral exporters.
The blooming of a new export crop, the red gentian. Till now, gentians have been blue. It's been a favourite with florists here for over a century. But the Japanese wanted a red one for their winter market. They tried to breed it but couldn't. Now, after 10 years of research, Kiwi scientists have produced not only a red, but also a hot pink gentian.
Most of us won't see much difference between these two cultivars, but this red one and this bright pink one are really quite different to the florist and flower breeder.
And they say the new fashion flowers will be worth millions of dollars in exports.
We're very excited about it. The Japanese love it, they want it, and they're really enthused about it.
So enthused, in fact, they've already formed a joint venture company with New Zealand growers to supply the new line of gentians.
They're an export product that's going to provide you and I with more money coming into the country. So it's a good example of what science can do to lift what is an agricultural product and make it even more valuable.
Crop and food research are also experimenting with a wide range of other flowers. These Satanthus have been bred with long stems and an extra long vase life and are already headed to markets in the United States and Europe. The scientists say floriculture is driven by fashion and they'll always be looking for new flowers. John Newton, One News.
Neil's here with sport later, just before he heads off to the cricket, and Stephen Fleming not getting caught up in the hype of 2020 cricket.
I think he's a bit concerned about a long season for some of the players, Wendy. So the Black Cap skipper is urging everyone to take a deep breath. Also coming up, the multi-millionaire who turned his back on Canada to win gold for Australia. And the man they call Sugarfoot warms up for his first home bout in almost a decade.
Coming up next on the news, though, why shopping trolleys have more germs than public toilet door handles.
Sold for a record price, a New Zealand stamp that's licked them all.
And breaking out of his shell, the tiny kiwi that's a long way from home.